Welcome again. I'm Hilary. I'm one of the co-founders and chief broker officer at Side, and I'm honored to be joined today by three amazing agents. And we've got a good spread from Northern California with Jason Madani to SoCal with Tyson Robinson, and over in Houston with Michael Silva. So thank you all for joining. If you don't mind, if you could give us a quick elevator pitch as to who you are and a little bit about your business, gives everybody a little flavor of who they're looking at, how big your business is, that kind of a thing. We'll start off with Jason, if you don't mind. We'll start in NorCal.
Thanks, Hilary. So I've been doing this for about 16 years, and we have a team. We did 178 transactions last year. With $131 million in volume. And we have about 7 buyer's agents and then a listing manager. And I have a partner who's the operations manager that's been with me for 15 years. And we sell all over Santa Cruz County, a lot in the mountains and some on the coast.
Awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, let's go down the coast down to Tyson.
Yeah, Tyson Robinson. I'm out of Temecula Valley and Trillion Real Estate here, and which Temecula Valley, I hope everyone knows where it's at, or kind of. It's just north of San Diego, southwest Riverside County. My setup is basically myself. I've got 7 employees. I also have a property management business, so 5 of my employees are for the management business. We manage over 260 doors now, residential properties. And so basically I have 2 property managers, a property manager assistant, a virtual assistant, executive assistant, and a marketing manager. I focus on the real estate side and just basically selling real estate, although I, of course, assist a little bit with the management.
How many transactions did you do last year, just as a broad number?
Just over 80 myself.
Awesome.
And this year, I'm hoping to hit 100 on my own. I also have a number of agents, and I don't know how many transactions they did, but I think they probably did about a little bit more than myself. Where am I at? I'm at like 14 independent agents, and then I have a few that I do dish some leads to, so you can consider them a hybrid buyers team. And I'm at 31 transactions this year, so somewhat on track for 100, depending on how things go these next few months. But that's my target. And did I miss anything? No. I've been a broker for about 10 years or so.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Michael Silva is the founder of Happen Houston. Would love to hear your story.
Hello. So it is a total of 11 agents, including myself. We focus on pretty much sorry for the ding. I'm on my wife's computer. So if you hear the ding, I really apologize. I thought I turned off all notifications. So 11 agents, including myself, we focus on the inner city of Houston. Last year was year 1 for us. So we did about 100 as a brokerage, 120 million, 220 transactions. Myself and 1 other agent make up for about 70% of all that production. This year, still looking good. Today we're at 50 million pending and sold. At about 93 transactions. So good considering the past 6 weeks have almost been a wash. But our brokerage is known for just really solid representation, obviously, of buyers and sellers, but also really heavy in the builders or new construction representation. And then we also have my wife and I started a construction company. So in one of the areas that I predominantly where we farm and represent a lot of just normal buyers and sellers. It's a massive subdivision in Houston, and we build there. So at any given time, we'll have anywhere from 7 to 8, 5 to 7 spec projects going on at a time, and then and pretty heavy on the customs as well. So super integrated into new construction representation, and then also building ourselves. So that's kind of a rundown of who we are.
Super. Thank you very much. So we have the three of you obviously here today because of the change in landscape that we've all been experiencing. And the three of you represent three very, very different areas of the country, but you all have the same story to tell, which basically is that you have been adapting and keeping your business going very, very well during this time when most people are, quite frankly, scared and freaking out. So we want to dive in and figure out what you're doing, how you're doing things, if you're adjusting, or what you're seeing in the market that other people can learn and then use for their business as well. So let's, Tyson, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. Where were you before, right before the COVID shelter-in-place situation, and where are you now, and how have you seen things change with regards to your listing numbers, your pendings, and your close?
Yeah, awesome. I think we had a lot of momentum going into the beginning of the year. Had some high goals in terms of what we wanted to achieve. In March, we closed 11, or I closed 11 transactions, and April I'll close 7 or 8, I believe. And next month, I think we're still on track to do another 7 or 8. I definitely am just continuing to work. I think one of the important things is that we continue with the same mentality of like, it's a business and we got to continue to run it like a business. So if it's a lot easier to get lazy just because of the whole change in landscape. Yeah. And so it's even that much more important to continue with your morning routines. And so I think that's what I'm trying to do is just stay very consistent. As you can see, I still come in the office in the mornings, and I have my morning exercise routine and everything. I try to keep things as similar as possible as to when none of this was going on. And I feel like things are slowing a little bit for us, but because of the fact that we're just continuing to work, continuing to prospect, continuing to market, that we're still getting a decent amount of business to where we're not seeing a huge effect in terms of the number of listings and sold properties. So I think it's just important to keep working.
We're seeing a couple people go in your background. So are you encouraging your team to do the same thing with regards to keeping up their routines, prospecting, keep things normal?
Yeah, so they're all welcome to work from home, but there's a couple that do come in here periodically just because they find it to be easier for them. But yeah, so they work from home. Sometimes they come in here if they need to.
Awesome. Michael, I think you had a similar thing when we were talking before, was you had quite a bit momentum coming into March. And I know Houston's stay-at-home or shelter-in-place didn't go into effect till late March, like the 20th. Which was a little later than the Bay Area. So how have you seen things change, if at all, for you guys over the last 4 weeks?
Yeah. So there was we knew like early March it was going to get really interesting, right? So there's like one line in the Bill Gates Netflix documentary that stood out. He said, when things get hard, or when things get difficult, work harder. And that's literally what everyone at Happen has done. So yeah, I'm going to kind of go off on a tangent and then I'll circle back just to kind of hit everything I think the questions are asking of us. But yeah, little things. I think in my lifetime, hopefully, we'll be in this business for a while in brokerage and construction. So there's a good chance that we're going to see something like this again, right? Not nearly as impactful, but we started really documenting everything that we're going through. We call it the Corona file. And so that's text, emails, conversations, thoughts. So it's just something that we can look back on in the future and just kind of pinpoint exactly how we reacted, down to the day and sometimes even hour. Copying and pasting text conversations amongst the agents. Just to really reflect back on how we got through it, right? Because there's a good chance that something of this nature will happen again, whether it's pandemic, economic, I'm really sorry for the background noise if you can hear that.
It's all the new normal.
Okay, yeah,
It's all
there's
good.
kids screaming in the background, and I just sent a text saying, "Hey, can you?"
It's all fine.
Yeah, I think that no real special techniques. I mean, we really just kind of divided and conquered. Ashley and Hannah were all things brokerage. Beth and Katie were all things back end and finances, and we knew that if there was going to be downtime, we really wanted to dive in. Anything that was, a project that was on the back burner, whether it was, systems and procedures, checklists, anything that we could do to be better throughout this time or coming out of it. We've taken advantage of any downtime. It also got the creative juices flowing, which was awesome. But really just getting into the calendar in order, to stay consistent. I mean, we knew that people were going to be hungry for information or curious. So we determined that day was going to be, Wednesday, that we were going to send out consistent updates. So if you're going to send out updates on Wednesday, we needed to be prepping on Monday or Tuesday. So we blocked out all of Tuesday afternoon to really just go through and look at each individual active client, also taking into consideration who we had upcoming. And then as far as the, past and upcoming clients, we would kind of give like a generic but still very detailed information on a consistent basis. And I think that's been super helpful. Like the clients, sometimes it was good news, sometimes it was bad. Some weeks were heavy on the calls and Zooms, and some weeks were heavier on emails. But the clients were super appreciative just for the fact that we were just shooting it straight. But I felt like my job was to really, listen and create the bulk of that messaging. So like Tyson said, keeping your morning routine, but carving out additional time. So I started waking up sometimes hour and a half earlier just to really, whether it was the Inman Daily Dispatch or Local Economist or podcasts or news, and just spending a good amount of time each day since all this started and unfolded, collecting information, organizing it, going over with the team. They would make it pretty, and that collection of info is what we would be sending out on Wednesdays. Got with our lender, who's a really good friend of mine, created a state of the market every Monday morning. He was getting us really good information from the lending side that we could plug into those updates. But for the first few weeks, we're the new construction that we represent. When we were talking to clients early on, especially just normal resale buyers and sellers, week one was, we have no friggin' clue what's going to happen. We have no idea how this is going to play out. So obviously they appreciated the honesty, but and said, look, we're going to be on top of it and we'll be relaying the information as we get it. For the developers, I remember it was Monday, March 9th, really before things unfolded here in Houston. We sat at the table, looked at every last development listing we had on the market, determined where exactly pricing needed to be adjusted, if at all, so that we were well positioned going into this. We had no idea even how that was going to play out. And what's been really interesting, here in Houston, at least for the inner city, is that lower end. We've got a lot of new construction and, that caters to first-time home buyers, mid to late 20s to early 30s. And it's been super interesting to see just how that sector of our business has just really hasn't slowed down. Number of showings, number of contracts compared to any given normal month. So it's allowed us to have, so go.
Sorry, what percentage would you say have you had to do a price reduction on?
Honestly, that new construction, when we met on the 9th, those are the only reductions that we made. For everyone else, we were just kind of getting, we just asked that they hold tight. So with each client, it was case by case. And it still very much is. Some we were telling, hold off, don't come on the market. Some, depending on the price range, area, or product, we were expediting those timelines. And then, we learned that, we've got in Houston, we've got an amazing medical center. So that where we had developments over near the med center was just completely come to a halt. And it's, those people were obviously preoccupied. A lot of those are doctors and nurses that buy those homes. And, it was like trying to get a CPA to buy a property at tax deadline. So, it surely hasn't been the case for all price ranges in Houston, 500 and 1,000 plus was just completely frozen. But it's been really cool because the past 10 days, we're starting to see just showings, new listings, and pending contracts start to tick up in all price ranges. So
I know you did a bunch of education and keeping your clients apprised, and I know Jason, you did the same thing. That's one thing that you've really been able to do. And looking through Skyslope in your files, it seems like you have a flood of listings. So how have you been able to secure those listings given the current situation?
Was that for me or Jason?
Jason, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You'll have to unmute.
Sorry, I'm really bad at the unmute thing, Hilary. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
So for the new, we were only allowed to show vacant houses in Santa Cruz County. So we've been having our clients move into VRBOs or stay with family. And luckily we had, I went on a big listing rampage. And I haven't been, I have a really great listing manager and I have your guys' listing presentation that you guys helped us build. So we really, I'm knocking on wood because I usually lose listings, but I've been winning them all. I have one I've been fighting for in Scotts Valley, and it was a long story, but we've won all of our listings. So we had a huge inventory, and a lot of them were already vacant. So we were just lucky, and we've been working hard, in the beginning of the year to build up the inventory. So we were lucky to have a bunch of listings to start with. And then we were able to just put the vacant ones on and stage them. We have a staging company too. So we actually were able to, we've had 39 closings so far this year, and we were able to get 12 new listings while we were during this whole, when this was all happening, basically 2 a week, which is our goal anyways.
So business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, I've been, I guess business as usual, but when this all happened, it brought me back nightmares of 2008. So, if I don't have any wine to drink the night before, I basically wake up and I'm just up at 5 a.m. and I usually drop my kids off at school. So I've been here at 7 a.m. just, drinking coffee and attacking the phone and pretty much feeling like I'm in a war zone. I mean, we put a sign on the office saying, we're closed, lock the door just in case, we don't want to violate rules or break the laws, but I'm sheltering in place. It's pretty much been a few of us and a couple of our agents coming in and out during the whole process, but we were able to get mostly just the listing side. We came on really strong with that. I'm looking at my notes on what we did. Elena, thank you, Elena, for helping me figure out what we've been doing. I don't even know what we're doing. We're just working. So we've done good during the SIP 18 new transactions. So most of them
awesome. Have you switched where your marketing dollars are going, or you're just leaving them where they were?
I actually canceled the postcards just to save money right now. So we were doing a big postcard thing, and instead I hit the database and hit the phones really hard. And I've been informing our clients on all the changes with the COVID. Right now they're looking like we're going to be able to show occupied homes, but it's not certain. So I'm kind of telling people that this might happen and giving them kind of what's happening in the market.
Since you're winning the listings, and that's congratulations, it's fantastic. Yeah. What are you doing specifically, especially during shelter in place, to win those? Are you using Zoom, or what tech are you using?
I'm figuring out what the comfortability of the client is. So we're using a lot of Zoom calls. And then we're also trying to, if we do meet in person, we're, depending on the client's comfortability, we're wearing the masks and the gloves. We're having them turn all the lights on, and we're giving listing presentations a lot of time outside and at a distance. So, if the clients feel safe, we do that way. If they don't, we do it, we do it virtually and through DocuSign. But a lot of times we'll meet up, and we're selling, properties with acreage. So it's not a big deal to sit outside and keep really good distance from somebody and show them your iPad.
You get the bullhorn and you're yelling across the 40 acres.
I already talk really loud, so I have that gift. I'm really loud. I think I have to close all the doors here at the office. So.
That works. Well, it works, especially when you're on a mask and you're having to talk to someone,
Yeah, my face gets really hot. I'm like, God, I can't wait till this is over. But yeah, I want to get the listings. And for the beginning, we're just going crazy getting listings. I mean, and I guess, I don't know if this is the question, but we had a lot of our escrows wanting to cancel, and we were breaking out the numbers on what, the first, when it began, my first job was save what we've got. We had a bunch of listings and buyers in escrow, and everybody was watching the Dow Jones go down and panicking. But we were able to let them know you're getting a 3% interest rate and you're going to save $100,000 on your mortgage or $90,000. So we kept those together. And then after that, we went and got more listings and built up the inventory. Then, this last week we put eight deals. 8 deals? We put 8 deals into escrow in a week. I was working till 11 o'clock at night, a couple of those nights, but
Good for you.
so now it's like, okay, next round. Over list too, we had multiple offers. So we were getting offers and we were procuring other offers and doing multiple counter. So once somebody else knew, a lot of them came in low, and then we called everybody to let them know we had an offer, and then we got more offers and bid them all up. So
great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good segue, and I'll kick it back over to Tyson. Are you, for clients of yours who maybe are wanting to wait to put their house on the market, what are you telling them? What advice are you giving them, and how are they reacting?
Gotcha. Yeah. So what we're seeing on our market, and like with the stats and so forth, is we just pulled them a day or two ago, and homes are selling quicker now than they did last year, the same time period in our market. And they're still selling within 1% of list price. So I'm just using some of the stats like, hey, homes are still selling. They're moving. If you need to sell, now's a great time to still sell. So I'm basically just sharing some of the stats and just how we've been selling multiple properties on a weekly basis, and there's a number of buyers that need to buy and a number of sellers that need to sell. So I just basically give them that information, and in many cases, I think that convinces them. But the reality is there's still those clients that are not going to want to sell or buy right now, and that's fine. What we've done is just continued forward, and those guys are on hold. But a lot of them decide to go ahead and sell and buy.
Yeah. I'm going to move it over to Michael. I know you said that you were reaching out to your clients on a regular basis, phone calls, emails, texts, whatever. If people are coming to you and they're asking you listing specifically, if they're trying to maximize their equity in their house, are you advising them list now or wait until things open up and more people are wanting to buy? Do you see a bit of a difference between now and then?
Yeah, I think that overall consensus is the fact that we're going to have this big pool of buyers and sellers that were probably springtime buyers and sellers that are going to turn into summertime. That's like hard speculation as to what will likely be the case. So there's, a couple different ways to look at it. First and foremost, we let the data just dictate the majority of the decision, right? There are some that we need to move up and list now, and there's some that we're telling them, hey, just hold off. And then there's some that we're looking at, okay, well, if this pans out to be true, and there's a lot of buyer and seller activity come late June or July or August, depending on certain areas of town and price points, we might say, well, let's list, 30 days prior to what could be that window to beat out a lot of what could be additional inventory to compete with. So it's so case by case. But we're staying on top of the market and just relying on the black and white data to really guide us. And so it's different for everyone. The strategy is different for everyone.
Yeah, and making it individual and seeing what their need is really. If they need to buy and now is a great time to buy, they may make up the difference in a lower equity out of their sell with a lower price point to buy.
100%.
Yeah. Let's dive into buyers, since everyone, I'm sure, has people who can the interest rates go lower? Can I go in, at a lower price point on my offer? One question I think to everyone is, what is the overall consensus of your buyers? If you could, starting with Jason, what are your buyers saying to you?
Well, we're lucky we have buyers that we've sold their homes and they're looking to buy different houses. So we have a bunch of those guys that have been looking. We've sold, and so they need to move, and a lot of them don't want to rent. So that's been a good situation. We've also had buyers that we're close to the Silicon Valley, so a lot of them are moving here for job locations.
Even now?
Even now, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of them that have had jobs that they were waiting on in tech, so that's been great. I think we're lucky to be here for that. And then other buyers we were kind of, in the beginning we were uncertain. Houses weren't selling for a couple weeks when all this was happening. So we were encouraging them to make offers, and some of those guys started making offers and then ended up becoming emotionally attached to the homes and got multiple counter offers when other people jumped in. So they figured out, well, if everybody else is buying, I should probably buy it too. So we had some of that happening. There was a little bit of fear. People were a little scared about their, stock market's recovered a little bit, so that's really helped out too.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. Tyson, do you have any people who are giving you pushback and saying, actually, you know what, I'm more concerned about my job and stuff, I'm just going to wait and hold out?
Yeah, we've definitely had a few. I have a few buyers that are holding off. And that's fine. I feel like kind of like what Michael was saying, like each one's a different situation, and just based on what their needs and feelings are with the market, we just totally respect where they're at and so forth. And if they want to hold off, we just hold off. And we just continue to try to get more business at the same time, but stay in touch, of course, with them.
What kind of information are you providing to those people to stay in touch?
The buyers that are holding off.
Yeah. How are you keeping your face and your name recognition in front of them on a regular basis?
So for any of the leads, we just stay in touch at least to where we're messaging or every week, probably usually 2 or 3 times a week, just touching base, see how they're doing, checking in. Staying at the forefront of actually just, I shouldn't even say it, but I met with one of my buyers yesterday that's holding off briefly. And so, just really trying to stay connected, which is kind of the same thing as like with prospecting. I feel like we do have a little bit more time to do different types of prospecting from the office. And so we have been doing a number of things to continue to reach out to our sphere past clients and stuff. And same thing with the buyers. We're trying to stay in touch with them. And I just want to share, this is kind of going off on a tangent, but a few of the ways that we're trying to just stand out is we did a campaign, not a campaign, but we sent out a message to all of our past clients in Sphere and our property management owners and tenants. And we said, hey guys, we know it's a tough time we're going through. If you guys I love Great Harvest cinnamon burst bread. And so we gave away a loaf of bread and delivered it to their doorsteps. And we had over 100 reply. And so I felt like that was a big win. A couple of those conversations turned into, hey, my brother's thinking of buying right now, and, go through and so got in touch with a few people that way. And in no way were we mentioning anything to do with real estate. They know I do real estate, obviously. Another one we did recently is a coloring contest, just with kids being in the house. We did a custom coloring contest page with a picture of me in a house in the back and stuff.
What was the prize?
The prize for that one is Amazon gift cards for the kids. But we're just trying to be creative, trying to set ourselves apart, brand, and just, I think there's obviously in all of our markets, there's so many realtors, and we have to really do things to set ourselves apart. Yeah. So we're just trying to do various things like that to stay in touch with all of our clients.
I love the bread. I love the bread idea. That's fantastic. I know Happen right before this did a huge Easter egg thing in the community too. Have you guys done any other kind of personal outreaches, non-real estate related?
Yeah, well, we were about to do, so we have like photos with the Easter Bunny. It sounds so cheesy, but it's actually great. Photos with the Easter Bunny and photos with Santa every year. And so we ordered 5,000 eggs that are already prepackaged, for an Easter egg hunt for while all the kids are hanging out waiting for their, photo with the Easter Bunny. And so we got stuck with 5,000 eggs. Because we weren't able to put the event on because the city shut down right before we were going to get out there. So I was every morning, it's part of my morning routine just to kind of skim over Workplace. And I can't remember who the agent was, but someone had posted something about a flamingo, and she was going out and putting out these flamingos in front yards. And So I just copied and pasted the link and sent it to the girls in my office. I was like, this is cool. I'm not saying we should go and buy flamingos, but like, what does it make you think? And they were like, oh shit, we have 5,000 Easter eggs. Let's create little, Easter eggs. So anyway, they ended up packaging like 200 bags of Easter eggs, like 15 each, so that put a message out to the neighborhood. We had 170 something households respond saying, yes, please bring us eggs. So Katie and Beth.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Ashley spent all night packaging these things up, put it real nice, put a little card in there with the little cheesy saying that was Easter-ish. And delivered it to just over 170 homes. That was one little thing that we did. And then they also put together a really cool like quarantine package for all of our clients. So it had like, I think popcorn, bottle of wine, stuff geared towards like moving. I can't remember exactly what they put, but they probably dropped that off to 30, 40 homes. So everything was super well received. But the 170, those are, I would say probably 160 were people that we have never had contact with at all. So I'm sure we did a couple other things. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was a super successful one.
That's great. Jason, I have a little bit different of a twist to the question for you. Since public open houses aren't on right now, what are you doing to attract buyers if that particular avenue isn't available?
We've been doing Facebook Live open houses to promote our listings, and we've been doing a lot of Facebook advertising. And then we've been staggering our showings and letting people know how many showings we're having that day, and then fitting them in a certain slot. I actually got somebody called the sheriff on me and said, "Hey, you're doing open houses." I'm in my slippers at home, so it's just we were giving an hour gap between each showing. So we had, I think it was like set. Elena's putting them in a schedule, and then we're following up with them. But people, it's been busy. So no open houses, but
they're still coming out even with the PPE.
They're still coming out. And they're mostly coming from the city, which is interesting. They've been strapped in their four walls for so long. They're calling us, and I'm sending it to my agents, and we're scheduling showings, and but they're people from Hayward and Oakland and San Francisco, and they're looking at the woods. So it's I was kind of thinking that could happen, and it happened. That's
interesting. I'll actually pose the question to all three of you. Do you think after this, as people are in super high dense areas, San Francisco, maybe San Diego and Houston proper, do you think that we're going to start seeing a whole host of people wanting to actually move out where they actually have a yard or some actual space to move around, thinking that this may become somewhat of a new normal, or they'll be seeing this again? Jason, you can start.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm betting my money on it. I'm seeing it right now, so I think you'll get more. I think people are going to want acreage. People kind of socially isolate here in the Santa Cruz Mountains anyways, and even in the little towns, there's a lot more space and less crowded and very low traffic. So
I
think people are going to let them work from home more often. So.
Shoot. For sure. I think I even think myself, I want to be able to work more effectively from my home. And so I've actually just broke ground yesterday and building a backyard office as we speak, which is going to be like a 24 feet by 13 feet in my backyard. And then I know a lot of people kind of just thinking similar things, like whether they're in an apartment, they just need some space. I think it's definitely going to affect it. I mean, it affected myself, and so I'm sure it's affected so many other people that are going to want to do the same thing, get into a place that they really love and enjoy. So we're just needing the space for sure.
Yeah. Michael, are you seeing it already too?
I mean, the area of our business that has really just has not lost momentum. These first-time home buyers are coming out of apartment complexes. So, there's only two, when we look at it, we're like, damn, okay, these people are, there's obviously really low interest rates, but, we've heard a couple times already that, hey, they don't want to share elevators with anyone anymore. They don't want to share common spaces. And I know that's common, especially in areas like San Francisco Bay Area or Chicago, Manhattan. Houston, it's not. You can get space pretty much anywhere and everywhere. So, our busiest, the contracts that we've been putting together are probably over 95% buyers that are coming from apartment complex style living. So, we can only assume that has something to do with it. But even in the higher end, or let's just say 500 million, 2 million plus, we're already hearing that people are looking for just more space. And I think a lot of like the major, search, portals are reporting to, like, just the criteria and priorities are changing. So yeah, I like Jason said, I would bet my money on it. So
yeah, it'll be an interesting next 6 months to see what happens. One thing that a lot of people have been doing is virtual staging. I know it was starting to be a big thing before the COVID situation. What's your opinion as far as, do you think virtual staging is a must versus having a house that is, empty when you're walking in, because some stagers aren't staging? Anybody? We'll start with Michael.
Cool. I personally can't stand virtual staging. I think it's so ugly. And it's just deceiving, and you get there and it's just all over. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be circumstances where you just can't get it staged, and that's that's probably a really good backup option. I think that if you can get it staged, for sure. But I know that in Houston, I'm not sure if this has been the case all over. I'm sure it has been. But like now, the Matterport is a must, or these video walkthroughs, so you're seeing them everywhere. One of the things that we've done, which isn't revolutionary by any means, but just on the second photo of every listing, and we've got, I think, a Matterport on every active listing now possible. But if you were to look at our listings, once you click that first photo, the second one is like a kind of an aerial shot of basically showing, hey, there is a Matterport. Do not forget to look at it, and obviously putting it maybe in the first line or last line of the public remarks. So that's also a must. But one thing that I did want to, which very well could be a good tip too, and I don't know how well this will work in some other cities, but to touch on just kind of little creative move that we did that could work well for others in similar areas. In week one of things really shutting down, we were like, okay, well, there's going to be a lot of people stuck at home. In the neighborhood that I live in, where we do a lot of our business, the majority of it, there's a lot of foot traffic. So a lot of families, joggers, babies, moms, nannies. So we knew that, foot traffic was likely going to increase. So we called the sign company that we work with and said, hey, we want to have new signs made. They were really nicely branded, happened in Houston, but they said virtual open house really big. So people would see it and like, hell, why would you be putting virtual open house signage everywhere? And we peppered the neighborhood. I think we ordered like 80 of them. So for every active listing, what we did was we had the typical generic virtual open house signage, which was like in your face on not on every corner, but where we had listings, we always have a good amount. And then in front of the home, obviously we had the Matterport done, but there would be a different sign in front of each active listing, and it would say virtual open house, but it had a blank white box that then we created through the single property website. So let's say it was 2306chantilly.com is what it would say on the sign in front of the house. So people would visit it and would take them to the single property website, where it was really well put together, good pictures, info, the virtual tour. And then that obviously started the retargeting campaign. But that's cool. But the buzz that it generated, just the amount of foot traffic, people were like, this is awesome. And we started to see it on Instagram. People were posting it to Facebook, like, this is adapting at its finest.
So they're reposting for you.
We had clients that were reaching out, were like, this is an awesome idea. We had others. We started to get copycats, which is cool. Never mind that. So we started to see other brokerages start to create their virtual open houses, but they didn't have the single property website. They were putting some long, drawn out, annoying link that was just taking them to the association's website. So that was cool. It's just a good way to, I don't know how much longer that's going to last, but just a good way to capitalize on the foot traffic, utilize some of the tools that Side has to offer, like the single. We were able to do all this really quick. And then Happen Houston started following them around the web. So that was super successful. And as long as we can't do, in-person open houses, we're going to continue to do that. And we've ran it every weekend for the past.
That's one of my favorite things is when I go online, I go to random websites. I don't know, everybody, all of our side teams show up. One day it's Vanderbilt Homes on CNN. One day it's somebody else. I love it. It's just a sense of, this is fantastic for all of our partners. So I think it's fantastic. I know some people had put in some questions about closing transactions and getting things to the finish line. I know right now, last minute, some people are wanting to either extend their transactions or buyers are wanting to buy out, back out. I know I'm going to have to give it to Jason because Jason has a quadruple story where he's got 4 ends of a deal and he saved it by the hair on his chinny chin chin. So would love to tell everybody about it and how you did that. You're muted.
I keep doing that. I keep touching it. So thanks, Hilary. Yeah. And Michael, I'm taking your virtual sign idea. I'm stealing that. That is freaking awesome. I'm going to order 80 signs too.
I'll send you some pictures.
Send me some pictures, man. It'd be great. So yeah, I had this deal. I had a listing. It had actually fallen out of escrow before that. We had 4 offers come in, 2 from my team, and then 2 from other agents. We took the highest one, which was from another agent. The other agent went to Cabo, and I was trying to close the deal. It fell apart during COVID, or right in the beginning of COVID. I put it in, and then the buyer called and said, "Hey, the real estate market's going to go to toast. I'm worried about losing my job." And I asked him what he did and all that stuff. He would actually be a good marketing guy. So I said, if you get fired, come talk to me. I'll hire you. But anyways, he kept his job. And we broke down. He was a numbers guy as well. He was kind of a marketing engineer type. So I did the math, and he was going to save $100,000 by getting the 3% interest rate. And now the rates are higher. So I told him, you're probably never going to see a rate at like 3% exactly again. So we pushed him through. He's like, well, he knew that he somehow Googled the number of the seller and was trying to get the seller to let him out of the contract because we kept the contingencies really tight. That's why we get all the reports done in advance and all that stuff. So we had that all done, and I rushed the appraisal and made sure that all went through. So a week into COVID, we had all the contingencies released, which was really good. But if he would have canceled, he was the buyer on one of our listings, and that listing was buying one of our other listings. So I call it a quadrupler. And then at the end, I think there was a referral fee for Vegas. So I was like, okay, this isn't a good way to start the year where we have like a referral fee and 4 transactions just dead. So we put it all together, and I used that same strategy for a bunch of other deals. Recently, I remember in 2008 when we had people that were needing pay raises, or I kind of used the strategy for other transactions where like, hey, you're buying a house, talk to your boss, see if we can just keep you on the job or switch you to, like, we had some people that were building residential homes. I was like, well, maybe they could switch you to the hospital job and keep you employed to something more essential. So we've been trying to tell our buyers, like, ask your employer, can you give you a raise? Can you keep you on payroll? That kind of stuff. And some of it's worked and some of it has caused extensions, but we've been doing a lot of that too.
And you're showing numbers. You're doing math for clients. Like, look, if you back out, this is what you're potentially losing, and this is where you're saving. So
Yep. Call the lender and and ask them what's the savings. And I had them email me the breakdowns. I asked the lenders to do that for me when this was happening.
Yeah, it's a smart thing. You got to work as a team for sure.
Good decisions. They actually made really good decisions for the family, and the market didn't go down. It's actually going up slightly, I think, in our area.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from lenders as well, is that they saw a huge dip a little bit ago, and then it's creeping back. So it's almost like, it reminds me that in the 2008 to 2010, I feel like we skipped 8 and 9, and now we're back at 10. We're on the just barely going back up.
Yeah. This isn't that bad. This is kind of.
Yeah, I'm wondering if any of you are seeing any of your investor clients start talking about picking things up for potential either getting things that are going to be short sales, or when people are going to realize that, hey, I didn't pay my mortgage for 3 months and now the bank's going to make it due instead of putting it on the backside of my loan. Are you hearing any rumblings from investor buyers? Jason?
Yeah, we're getting some calls from those guys that are kind of on the sidelines, and we're getting calls from sellers that have occupied homes that are doing forbearance. So that's the big question: is what's going to happen? Is it going to go to the back, or are they going to repay it in 90 days? And nobody really knows. But I think some people are looking at it and wanting to buy. So I think we are prepping our clients who do have a lot of cash that like to buy good deals that might be coming, and they're kind of waiting for it. And I think there are, who knows if the inventory goes up, we might, and if, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but right now the market's hot, but it could be if we get high inventory, people not making their mortgage payments, that we could have maybe some dips later on, but,
Yeah, Tyson, I remember the short sale market and the REO market was incredibly robust, unfortunately, in 2008 to 2010 down south in San Diego, Temecula especially. Are you hearing anything of that's where people are going, or we're thinking more optimistic?
Geez, I'm hearing more optimistic overall. I think it seems to be completely different, or in many ways, just in terms of people being able to afford their homes and stuff, a lot more so than in 2008 to 2010 timeframe. So I'm not seeing it. I mean, I definitely have some friends that are hoping something happens, but I'm just not seeing it yet. Based on the data and stuff and the activity, it still seems like things are moving pretty good. And if anything, I feel like, of course, it's personal opinion, worst case scenario, we're going to just see a bit of a drop. Yeah. Not 50% like we saw in our area back in 2008 to 2010, but maybe 10 to 15% over a couple year period drop. But it's hard to say. There's so many things changing every day. That I think that's worst case is 10 to 20 max.
Yeah, we're all cautiously optimistic, right? And that's cautious optimism. And I think that's the key word. I'm going to remind everyone that if you have specific questions for anyone, please put it into our little Q&A box at the bottom, and I will be glad to get to them, just as a reminder to do that. Some people have asked, Michael, maybe you can jump on this one, how you are able to handle the vendor management with transactions that are closing. So if you have a staging company, or if you've got pest inspections, appraisers, maybe things are delayed because of the stay-at-home orders. Are you having to do anything different to facilitate closing on time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's one of the reasons why it's so important to work with really good vendors, right? Lenders and title companies, and always be working with the best. And that's just an area that we do not change. So whether it's title or lender, or stagers or painters or whoever it is, we're super choosy on who it is that we are maintaining a relationship with. So far we haven't had any issues. I mean, our title company and lender, or any vendor for that matter, have really stepped up and gone to bat, just because we keep them busy, and we're always professional and courteous with them, respectful of their time. So we have just a very mutually beneficial relationship. So thankfully for us, I mean, we had a few deals bust out because unfortunately the people, had lost their job or were furloughed, but that's side note. But for the most part, it's been pretty smooth. So
I think that's a plug too for the workplace for Sides community, is that if you have a vendor that's not performing and you need a replacement, ask. The team, all the agents have amazing relationships and everybody shares. So if you find yourself in a situation where you are stuck and you need to perform right now and you need a referral to another vendor, just ask. Tyson, have you had any questionable deals that you didn't think were going to close that ultimately were able to close?
Geez. Yeah, I'm dealing with a couple. I had one last week that we closed on where the seller on day 2 said they didn't want to sell anymore.
Day 2?
Yeah, day 2. the day after we accepted contract, they wanted to back out and they were looking for any reason to back out. And of course, I just shared, hey, if they abide by the contract, unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do to cancel unless they just don't perform according to the contract. And the buyers did perform in the end, and we did close. It was a nightmare of a deal because they wanted to cancel, and the buyers did not want to cancel, and it would have affected 4 or 5 other transactions. It was one of those domino transactions, kind of like the one with Jason. But yeah, and then I have another one I'm getting ready to close too. That was a bit of a nightmare, but that's why it's so important to have strong vendors and do your homework up front. I think I could have done a bit better. Well, I couldn't have done much with the clients that wanted to cancel, but the listing that I have that's having a lot of issues, I should have dug deeper with the lender because he's been a nightmare to deal with. We just got to do our homework on those ones.
Yeah. Make sure for sure. A couple more questions that we've got. What, once the shelter in place, once we go back to new normal, what do you guys see as maybe one big change in how you do things? Whether it's virtual showings, you're adding that to your repertoire, or, doing more things via Zoom. What do you think will be the one big takeaway that you guys are all going to change or adapt to? Starting with Jason.
Definitely more virtual things. We're going to see more Zoom calls. I'm sure that's going to last. I'm glad I know how to do it now, so that's great. We're going to have, I think, it's been a really good awakening call for me to make even more phone calls than I used to make. So it's definitely, keeping in communication with the market and changes. It was nice. I mean, it's terrible this happened, but it was a good reminder to be really proactive. And I even reminded my buyer's agents that, hey guys, this is time to really service your clients and make sure that you're talking to them and hunting down new inventory. And we've always done 3D tours. We've always done the single property website. We've been doing that for at least 5 or 6 years now with floor plans and all that stuff. So I'm glad that all of our listings had that from the get-go. So we're going to keep doing that, of course. And more social media. I mean, we've seen, I think, an increase on social media at like 400%. So we've been doing videos, updating on the market and the new rules and, and our success and that escrows we're putting together. So we're going to keep doing that. I think even more social media. We have a social media gal here at the office that blasts things on LinkedIn and Google and Facebook and Instagram. So
all the places.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Nice. Kick it to you, Michael.
Yeah, I hope we don't have to shake hands anymore because when I'm at the restaurant or at the office, there's so many guys that I see go into the restroom and they take a poop and they don't wash their hands and then they walk out. So I'll be happy if that changes. But otherwise, I mean, I think that there's a lot that we've shifted towards, like Jason said. I remember when I used to be so annoyed with myself whenever we'd have like 2 or 3 calls in one afternoon. And then, I'm like, why did I have 2 calls? Why did I set back-to-back calls? And then there's been days over the past 40 days where we've had literally 9 calls between 12 and 5 p.m. So that's awesome. And I was telling girls in my office, I refer to them as the girls, and some people may be like, well, that's the ladies in my office. So I would just want to I'd love them. And I think they love me too. So we got a really good thing. But some people have taken offense when I say girls. But I was talking to them yesterday and saying, hey, look, there's a lot that we're doing now that we shouldn't stop. And that's the Tuesday prep and looking at every, these things where we're going in depth and just, and taking an even deeper dive into each client situation. I don't want that to stop. And they all agreed. But as far as the social media and the mailers, like, we're pushing harder. We've gotten more aggressive. We went after a lot of when this started to slow down, and we've got a lot of new construction experience, so got a really good reputation in that arena. We started going even harder and with follow up on some of the guys that we had been talking to. We landed a really big one yesterday, and we just told the guy, it's like, look, I mean, you guys are silent over there. When we added a lot of these guys to the updates. Even when they probably didn't expect to hear from us, they did. And one other little tidbit that I would give everyone too, and you just have to be super confident and know your market. But one of the things that we told this particular developer is, we know you're interviewing multiple people. So why don't you get those other brokers and bring them into the house at the same time? Let's all get there. You prepare your list of questions, you fire them off, and let's see who's sweating and who's not, and who's confident in their answers, who's answering gray, who's black and white, and you determine who's best for the job. And we tell resale sellers that as well, especially when we know we're up against 2 or 3 brokers. We'll say, bring us all in the same room. It's yet to happen, but I can't wait until when it does.
That'll be a fun Zoom call to be on for sure.
Yeah, so you better really know your stuff if you're going to offer that up. But we're just going to get more aggressive in the way that we are educating the client, in the way that we're keeping in touch, in the way that we're marketing, where we're marketing, different lead generation pillars, things that I've never done or Happen has done. We're looking into those coaching, training programs, accountability. So, we've been going really, really strong. I feel like we've worked harder and more in this past, 6 weeks than we ever have before. So we're going to really blast out of this, and we're going to keep that momentum, and everybody at the brokerage is on the same page. But hopefully we don't have to shake as many hands.
Awesome. I appreciate that. All right. Last word to you, Tyson. One thing that you think you're going to take out of this and do as well.
So I think online presence is huge, especially coming through this. Before this all happened, I think about half of our listings, I would never go meet them. It's usually a phone call or, something of, hey, Tyson, we're ready to list our house. Let's get it going. I think through this, if we're positioned properly online, meaning lots of reviews, obviously with the great websites that we have with Side and just this really strong social media presence, when they're doing their homework, anyone thinking of buying or selling, if they have all the information in front of them and great info, great reviews, etc., many times those people, they're going to give us a call and they're ready to go. And so my strategy is really just continuing to build my online presence, meaning I have a lot of Yelp, I need more. I have some Google reviews, I need more. I want to just continue to build my online presence because it's going to continue to shift. And so we need to shift with it. And if our online presence is big, we're going to get a good amount of business, which is I think the best type of business where they've done their homework, they call you, they want to work with you. You're not even having to compete with other realtors. And I've noticed that quite a bit, even the last few weeks, is a number of sellers, a couple of our new listings, I didn't go meet with them. I talked to them on the phone. They already knew. They didn't want to pitch. They didn't want me to give them, say why I'm so great. They already knew because they've gone through the website, through reviews, done their research on social media. They're ready to go. So I think it's just so important that we really have a very strong online presence.
Yeah. Well, I
appreciate
all of you. Thank you to Tyson, Michael, and Jason for joining us today. I greatly appreciate your time and your words of wisdom. I just want to remind everyone that the recording will be available on the same link. If you need help, just ping your business manager. I'm sure they'll share it. And then next Tuesday on May 5th at 11 Pacific, which is 1 Central, we have Sarah Suchan, who is our VP of Strategic Relations for CAR, California Association of Realtors, and she is also the co-founder of Woman Up. So thank you, everybody, again, and hopefully you'll join us next Tuesday. So have a wonderful weekend.